One more time with Cloud Gems. Let's get to work. What's up, people? MisterToolbox back with another Amazon Lumberyard video. Today we're taking our last look at Cloud Gems and we're going to build our own project. We'll start with the project configurator. We'll create a new project, add some gems, and go from zero to cloud, as all the cool kids are saying. This video is likely going to be a little bit more chatty and a little less procedural than some of the others. I'm going to let you know kind of my experience building this project from start to finish. I'll certainly hit the highlights as far as what you need to do to create a project that has working Cloud Gems, but I won't walk through every step of it. I'll post some code at the end that should get you where you're going. As usual, our journey starts with Project Configurator, so I've popped it open. I'm going to go ahead and click Create New to create a new project. We'll call this CC Demo 1. Click Create Project. All right, we've got that here in our window. I'm going to click Enable Gems. Now we're at the gems list. I'm going to bounce through here and choose just a couple that we'll need to get off the ground here. So we'll scroll down, take Cloud Canvas. We'll do Cloud Canvas Common as well. Cloud Gem Dynamic Content. Go ahead and click OK on the warning. That's telling you it's going to create some resources. Cloud Gem Framework. Same deal, click OK. Cloud Gem Leaderboard. Again, OK. Cloud Gem Message of the Day. Click OK. Call that good, so we'll click Save. And we'll head back to Projects. Back in the project configurator, let's make sure that CC Demo 1 is checked. Give a click on Set as Default, and we can close the project configurator. Now that the project has been created, I'm going to run through the Lumberwaff configure and build. This will take a little bit of time, so I'll meet you back when it's done. Alright, so the project built successfully. I've opened up the Lumberyard editor. First thing I thought to do, come up to AWS, Cloud Canvas Resource Manager. Under resource groups, there's nothing there. So my first thought was a giant WTF. I had no idea what to do. Then I thought about it, figured it was probably in one of the resource definition JSON files. Turns out that it's in the deployment-template JSON file. Given that the JSON file has resource definitions and they're pretty generic, it's safe to poach the one out of the Cloud Gem Samples project. So in Windows Explorer, navigate into Cloud Gem Samples, into AWS, and then we're looking for the deployment template JSON file. Here it is. I'll pop it open and add them. We'll take a quick look. I'm not going to sit and parse this line by line with you, but if you scroll through, you'll see some things that'll look familiar. We've got the Cloud Canvas sample configuration, along with some S3 buckets. Scroll down a bit more, the dynamic content buckets, stuff like that. So this is creating the CloudFormation stacks that'll spin out the resources you need to handle leaderboard Cloud Gems, message of the day, and the dynamic content. This is all, like I said, really generic. There's no account IDs or anything in this file, so it's safe to take it and dump it into your project. I'll show you where to put it. Back in Windows Explorer, let's give this guy a copy. Come back out to Dev. Find your project, the CC Demo in my case, and would you believe it's in the same place, AWS deployment template. You just want to overwrite that. So right click, paste, replace it, and we're good to go there. You may have seen in the background before I cut, but the Cloud Canvas Resource Manager live reloaded. It's got all the resource definitions in there now. So my first thought was click Upload All Resources. If you do that, it will work. It will mislead you, but it will work. So it'll get the CloudFormation stacks in place, but you'll have a problem when you go to create a default deployment. I'll talk about that in a second. I want to make a note that the other JSON files are not necessary to copy over. In fact, it's probably better that you don't copy them. The local project settings is going to include your account number once you've done a successful upload of the resources, so keep that the way it comes with your new project. The project template is kind of a newer revision with the projects that come from the project configurator. If you look at the one that comes with the Cloud Gem Samples, It's about 1,000 lines long. They've refactored that. It's about half the length. It's much more readable in the new format, so keep the one that comes with your new project. The only one we need here is the deployment template. So like I mentioned earlier, when I first did this, I uploaded those resources. It asked me for a deployment name. I gave it a name like Jeff or something, and it failed. And after a bit of trial and error, I found out that it's because there's some resource group definitions in that JSON file we copied over that it doesn't know how to handle. You'll find those over here on the left. I'm in the CloudGem samples project. And what you need to do is in the AWS folder, if you open up this resource group folder, you'll see project defined group and CloudGem dynamic content. If you're planning to use the Cloud Gems, it's safe to just copy this whole folder right over on top of yours. If you open up yours, this is the CC Demo 1 project. If you open up that resource group, you'll find that it's empty. If we traverse some of this, you'll see that there's some resource template definitions. There's actually some Lambda code. Same thing over here. There's resource group settings. So there's some JSON files and some actual Python code in there that we do need to upload to AWS to get our stuff working. So like I said, just take that resource group folder, plop it down in your project, and now we're ready to rock. With all of that in place, it's safe to go ahead and click Upload All Resources. It'll upload the stuff that you've got here in your resource group definitions. It'll ask you for a deployment name. Go ahead and give it one. That should all be successful. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to jump over into a different project I've already got wired up, and we will continue on. All right, here we are in my wonderful project. If we jump into the AWS Cloud Canvas Resource Manager, you'll see I've got all my resources created. See under administration, under deployments, I've got the ABC deployment, everything created successfully there. So now we can actually get to work with using the Cloud Gems. Once you clear the hurdle as far as the code that you have to copy over from the sample to get things to upload properly, the rest is pretty easy. So you'll see in my entity outliner, I have one entity here in this level. We'll go ahead and give it a click. Got a few things on it. Let's talk about that. First and foremost, you'll need some sort of Lua script to actually run the logic for your CloudGem interaction. So you'll see I've got that component here. We'll talk about that script in a minute. It's mostly poached code, but I've written some logic in it and added some properties, so we'll take a peek there. Now, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but it took me about 2 days of bashing my head against this thing before I realized that there are a couple other components you need. Click Add Component. Under Cloud Canvas Gems, you'll see the CloudGem Message of the Day client component, the CloudGem Leaderboard client component. Then down under CloudGem Framework, we have the Dynamic Content and Static Data components. Go ahead and slap all of those on anything you're going to have interfacing with those particular Cloud Gems. I say I'm embarrassed because I didn't add those, and if you don't add those, your requests will go out successfully. You'll see them in the AWS portal. You'll see them register as Lambda calls. You'll see successful Lambda events. It'll return good data, but you'll never see anything in the editor. I sat there, I had Wireshark out. I was debugging packets as they came in, trying to find out where the hell this data was going, only to find out that I didn't have anything subscribed to listen for the events in the level. Drove me mad. I was furious when I found out. So do make sure that you add those components to whatever's going to be listening for events from the CloudGem portal. So that's all the components on this entity. The only other quote-unquote game object I've got is a simple canvas I put together. So jump into the UI editor. Here it is main menu.ui canvas. It's ugly as sin, but it's got some buttons. It's got a space for leaderboard data, space for dynamic content, space for the message of the day. We'll see it in action in just a minute. I never claimed it would be pretty, but it does work. Last but not least, we need to do some legwork in the CloudGem portal. So we'll come up to AWS, click Open CloudGem portal. Let that load up. See, here's my deployment name. It's ABC. I'm a clever guy. Come over to Cloud Gems. Jump into message of the day. Set some messages of the day just so you can test for yourself. I just set test and test 2. Come back to gems, you'll see under leaderboard, I've added a score leaderboard. And if we jump back over into the editor, you'll see the stat property on my Lua script. It's set to score. That correlates to that leaderboard on the CloudGem portal. So if you name yours Fred or Aaron or something, make sure you do edit that stat so that they match up. Otherwise, you will not get a legitimate leaderboard back and things will fail. I popped open the Lua editor on the script that I put together. Like I said, a lot of the code I just kind of lifted out of the CloudGem samples, massaged. I added a ton of comments and a lot of debug messages. So this is really chatty on the console. It's also really chatty just in the editor, as you can see by the sea of green here. But I wanted anybody who looked at this to know exactly what it was doing at any given time. So anytime a line's actually doing much of anything, there's a sea of comments around what it is, when it happens, why it happens, stuff like that. I'm going to post this and the simple UI canvas I put together up to S3. I'll just zip them together. So if you want to download them and take a peek, you can. I hope they'll be educational or helpful for someone. Feel free to take them and mangle them as you want and kind of see how things work. Some of the notable stuff here, I split everything out kind of into its functions. So I've got a section here for the dynamic content stuff, again, for the leaderboard stuff. Further down, we've got stuff for the message of the day. So all the functions are grouped kind of by what gem they're touching. And then down at the end, utility stuff for the UI canvas, action string handlers, things like that. And then up at the top, we've just got the on activate, the deactivate, and the on tick, which happens every tick. So try to logically group this stuff so that if you're looking for a particular set of actions, you can find those pretty quick. Like I said, enough blabbing, let's see what it does. So if I jump out in the perspective viewport, press Ctrl G, we'll see my glorious UI canvas pop into frame. And let's click MOTD. See, I got test. I got test 2. Test 2 will probably stay there. It does. So I can go ahead and click the clear button. It basically resets everything back to stock. If I click get scores, we'll see the top 10 scores. We got rank, username, colon, score, dynamic content. Click that. We'll see over here, hello world. Let's get to work. Message 3. And say you have maybe a coworker named Derek. You can tell him he needs to get his bleep together. That's the dynamic content. I'll show you kind of how that file's put together in just a sec. So if we hit clear, everything will go away. And then if we go ahead and click the everything button, it basically just fires all of these functions at once. So you'll see it loops through over here on the right hand side. We get our scores table. Everything happens at once. So that's really honestly just grabbing all the rest of the functions and calling them in order. So we can clear that up. We'll hit escape. So let's prove to ourselves that this is actually using the AWS to get all that data. And we'll do that by adding a message to the message of the day portal. So I'll click add message of the day, say test 3. I'll set the priority to 2 on that just to keep things sane. Go ahead and click save. See, we got test, test 2, and test 3. Minimize that. Jump back into the perspective viewport, press Ctrl G. I'll click the MOTD button, test, test 2, and test 3. Neato. So let's see how that dynamic content was being loaded. I'll jump into my static data folder. We'll see I have this toolbox1 CSV file. I'm going to open that with Notepad, the editor of champions. Far too wide. There we go. It's a simple CSV just like in the CloudGem samples, but let's say, for instance, we realize it's not Derek, but big money who needs to get his bleep together. So we'll go ahead, save that now that we've made a change. Close it up. If we jump into the editor, come up to the AWS menu, Cloud Canvas, Dynamic Content Manager. I've got this JSON set as dynamic content. So see the file's already there. What I found is if you click Add Files, just find it again. Click Open, click Upload Packages. It'll make the update we're waiting for. Let's let that load up. Looks like we're good. We got a green check. Close that up. Let's give it another whirl. So out in the perspective viewport, Control G, click Dynamic Content, the Hello World. Let's get to work. Imaginative message 3. Now it says big money. Derek's off the hook. Cool. So that dynamic content script is effectively looping through that CSV, grabbing the values out of the key value pair, and then just putting those on the canvas. You'll see it pretty well documented in the Lua script. So that's it. I mean, now that I know how to do it, to create a project from scratch and use the Cloud Gems, I can explain it in about 30 seconds. I'll admit it took me a couple days of tinkering to get everything set up properly, but it's pretty smooth. Let's recap. To get off the ground, you need a deployment template JSON file, either of your own creation or the one from the Cloud Gem Samples project that's got resource definitions that pertain to the MOTD, leaderboard, dynamic content, all that stuff. You don't need the rest of the JSON from that project. You also need the stuff from the resource group directory, that's the project defined group, and the dynamic content stuff. You need some sort of script to actually handle the logic. You need your Cloud Gem components on an entity in your level, and you're done. I'm going to throw an annotation up on screen right now with the URL to download the Lua file I've put together, as well as the UI canvas I've been using with this project, in case you want to see them in concert. If you got any feedback on that stuff, do let me know. Questions are welcome. I'd prefer them in the Lumberyard community Slack, which continues to grow and be a very fun place to be. So jump in there. Again, the link to that's in the description below this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that stuff. You can skip the prayer to the dread gods of old this week. If you have any feedback, please do let me know. I'd like to hear what people think about looks at code, stuff like that. I'm considering a pretty deep dive into C++, so if that's not your thing and you want to see that crisis averted, please speak up. I need some feedback there. Anyway, I hope this is helpful and enjoyable. I'll leave you with a parting thought. Dive in. Try to do this from scratch. I learned a ton in the process. I think it's a super helpful exercise, if nothing else. I'll, like I said, post my code so that you can take a peek. Spin up a project from scratch. You, I'm sure, will learn just as much as I did and be better for it. Anyway, that's all I got. Laters.